So as we wrap up our sadly last day here, we wanted to touch on some of the things to do in Key West. These, in my opinion, would be the top things, because typically everyone goes, how do you find all these cool things? How do you come up with the things you want to do? And truthfully, I just Google top things to do in Key West or top things to do in Smoky Mountains. While some of them might be touristy, some of them are touristy for a good reason, such as the Turtle Hospital. That's a good cause. We wanted to cover the things we did out here in Key West. If you're an RVer heading down to Key West, we stayed at a fantastic campground. We stayed at the Sunshine Key RV Resort on Big Pine Key. When you look up campgrounds in Key West, there are quite a few, including the very popular Bahia Honda State Park. This also comes up as one of the most popular destinations for RVers. We've seen quite a few people who have traveled down to Key West and stayed at the same resort. Definitely a popular area and for good reasons. The resort is roughly an hour away from downtown Key West, so it's worth keeping in mind, but it comes full of amenities and, being a little bit further away while still pricey, cheaper than some of the campgrounds closer to downtown Key West. The resort is absolutely beautiful, and upon arrival they informed us that they have a lot of sea life there, such as manatees that like to frequent the marina, which we got to catch a glimpse of one afternoon. We definitely recommend you walk through there and check out a couple times a day just to see when they're there, because we looked several times a day throughout the week and only caught them once.
Next on the list is Bahia Honda State Park, a stunning natural oasis located in the Florida Keys, known for its pristine beaches, breathtaking bridge, and scenic walking loop. The park's crystal clear waters, warm sand, and lush vegetation makes it a popular destination for visitors from all over the world. One of the must-see attractions at Bahia Honda State Park is the historic Bahia Honda Bridge, which spans the park's eastern channel. The bridge, which was built in early 1900s, offers a stunning view of the park and the surrounding ocean. To get into this amazing park is only $8 per vehicle. You get an all-day pass into the park and enjoy a day at the beach and come back later to enjoy a sunset on the bridge. Making your way down to downtown Key West. There is a little bit of something there for everybody to see. You have mile marker 0, and you also have the southernmost point. 2 top destinations to see when you are going into Key West.
The great thing about downtown Key West is just about everything is within walking distance. Thanks to everything being rather centrally located, you could very easily make a full day of downtown Key West, taking in the sights, the great food, museums, and just the rich history that lies within Key West. From the Mallory parking square, we were able to walk up to Moondog Cafe to grab an absolutely fantastic early lunch. The food was very fresh and even refreshing. We walked over to mile marker 0, which is the start of the highway. This road runs all the way up to Maine. And while we did see a few museums, such as the Hemingway Home, as well as the Truman Little White House, which we'll touch on in a minute, after mile marker 0, you can cut over to Duval Street and walk down the historic street, taking in the sights, checking out the shops, and even grabbing a bite to eat. While we were on Duval Street, we stopped into the legendary Sloppy Joe's, and the food was fantastic, however very filling. And while you can find Margaritavilles all over the United States, we'd recommend you stop into the original Margaritaville on Duval Street and grab one of their original margaritas. But be careful, because while you're down there, there are chickens. And while there are chickens everywhere, more chickens than I think one person could really imagine there would be when you think about Key West or hear about the chickens in Key West, they're everywhere. We even caught a few crossing the road. We also caught one across the road attacking someone just walking down the street with ice cream. While we passed tons of chickens and never had a problem, they are pretty rampant there, so don't be surprised if they've got more chickens than New York has rats. I don't even know what that means. The Hemingway house was really interesting. You go through on a guided tour and you'll hear all about his problems with alcohol as well as marital problems. One of the key takeaways from the tour for us was that when he came back from being abroad on a military tour of sorts, his wife found out he had been having an affair. So after some fighting, he threw his penny down and said, "You can have my last damn red cent." His wife went on to have that actually encased in the concrete for everyone to see, that she got Ernest Hemingway's last damn red cent. Very cool tour to check out, especially if you're into Ernest Hemingway or literature in general. There's a lot of history in the house, and the guided tour is definitely something we'd recommend. Truman's Little White House was also a lot of fun and very fascinating. Truthfully, not knowing much about him ourselves, we weren't sure what to expect, but it was really an enjoyable tour. The guided tour was a little under an hour and about $22 per person, but very much felt worth it. Just a heads up for anyone going that might want to take photos or video, none are allowed within the Little White House. If you're looking to take video, maybe like we do for YouTube or even just for your own home use, if you reach out ahead of time, we were told by a tour guide, you can potentially get permission to record in there, but it's something you'll need to do ahead of time. Going through the White House, you hear about the history, all of the famous visitors, and even some of the secret meetings that Harry Truman had there in his little White House. While it might sound really secret and elusive, it was really just that Harry Truman was holding some poker parties during a time when it was kind of frowned upon to be gambling.
If you're looking for a great spot to catch a Key West sunset, one of the best places would be to hop aboard a ferry and go over to Sunset Key and have dinner at Latitudes. This dinner was hands down one of the greatest places that we have ever caught a sunset. We had, per the hostess, the best seat in town, and he was not lying. This seat was amazing to catch a beautiful sunset and have an amazing dinner.
So one of my favorite things to do in Key West might be one of the only things I've never heard anyone else mention about Key West. It was the Turtle Hospital. This was one of the most exciting things we did for us on this trip. We had a blast. The Turtle Hospital gives you a tour. They do house quite a few turtles there. Some are just undergoing recovery, and once they're healthy, will be released back into the wild. Unfortunately, some of those are also lifelong residents. One of the things we learned, if a turtle gets a crack, they'll get what's called bubble butt, where little micro bubbles get in between their shell and their skin, and those can unfortunately never be removed, which causes their shell to float up. The Turtle Hospital takes them in, rehabs them, puts some weights on them to balance them out, but then keeps them on as lifelong members to help support them, feed them, and help them flourish with the disabilities they have. This is something that I think anyone of any age, especially kids, will really enjoy. You get to walk around to the tanks to see the turtles up close, swimming around, just living their best life. It was something that, honestly, if we go back, I would go through and do again, and you get to be up close and personal with turtles, which was absolutely incredible.
Last but not least on our list would be one of our favorite things that we did, taking a seaplane out to the dry Tortugas. National parks is a big thing for us. We love going to see them, and this was one of our top places on our bucket list to go and see. The Dry Tortuga is located roughly 70 miles off the coast of Key West, and it is only accessible by ferry or seaplane. We took the route of the seaplane because it cuts your time literally in half. The ferry, 2 hours each way, or you take a seaplane for about 40 minutes roughly in the air. Once you land, you are officially in one of the most remote national parks there is.
Once you land in the Dry Tortugas, the first thing you should do is go tour the fort. See some of the things such as the boats that people in Cuba have fashioned to make it to the Tortugas to land and arrive officially in the United States. The fort is really large and there's a lot of walking to be done there. But on that same note, it's something we feel you can kind of walk through and tackle in about an hour. In order to maximize your time there, we'd really recommend before you arrive at the Tortugas, you read up a bit on the history, understand the fort, and some of the background. I think it helps really maximize your time there, because if you come into the fort understanding some of the history, you can walk through, appreciate it, and really just absorb all of the sights, the structure, and the history of the Dry Tortugas.
So whether you are taking the ferry or taking the seaplane, you have a couple options as to how long you want to spend your time there. You have either a full day, which is 6 hours, or a half day, roughly about 4 hours island time. We opted for the half day, and it gave us plenty of time to take a dive into the water and snorkeled around the fort. Although a little murky when we were there, it was still so fun to be able to snorkel next to such an iconic piece of history. Although we did so many things in Key West, there are still so many more things that we cannot wait to go back and do as well. If you have any ideas or any tips or tricks or things that we might have missed, let us know, because we cannot wait to go back into island life and dip our toes again in Key West.
If you want to learn any more about some of the things we talked about here today, check out this video here. Or see where it all started and check out this video here where we kicked off our 30-hour drive down to Key West from Ohio.